All right, let's fill it up again on Monday. Welcome to Frontline 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. We begin tonight with another promise made, another promise kept. President Trump getting an inside look at General Motors' massive investment into American manufacturing as the automaker pours billions into U.S. plants, expands production, and brings more jobs back home. Plus, from the front lines to the front seat, the Department of Transportation is launching the Freedom Haulers Initiative, recruiting military veterans into the trucking industry, saying American supply chain needs the same grit, discipline, and mission-first mindset our veterans already have. Look, if you can convoy in Afghanistan or Iraq, 100% chance you're going to be better than the illegals that California's putting on the roads. And, oh, look, another Democrat accused of corruption. Hawaii's Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke has been indicted on bribery, conspiracy, and campaign finance charges as part of a sweeping public corruption investigation. Of course, she denies all these allegations, but a lot of people are telling her to resign and get lost. But first, Democrats once again selected someone other than what the voters chose. Let's do this. All right. For the second time in 2 years, Democrats, the party of preserving democracy, according to them, have chosen a major candidate without an election. After ousting Graham Plattner, they did this behind closed doors by committee, obviously, which they also required IDs to enter. And then they chose this guy.
Because we're not from the left, we're not from the right, we're from the bottom, and we are rising.
The bar is literally on the floor. This guy, we know, couldn't get elected statewide because he couldn't get elected statewide. He got crushed in the governor primary in Maine. Now, behind closed doors, he's been nominated without a single vote cast by the public. He used to be a staunch pro-life Republican. In fact, received perfect 100% ratings from the anti-abortion group Maine Right to Life in 2003 and 2010, saying the abortion should never be legal. That's what he said. He also voted to ban same-sex marriage. But to get the nod for the Democrats, he's attributed those to his, get this, Catholic and rural upbringings that he said were wrong. I happen to think they're right, but now he's saying they're wrong just so we can get them. Because none of Maine is Catholic or rural, right? That'll play great, I'm sure. And apparently he's also a complete hothead. He threw a water bottle at a female staffer or something. I mean, if I was at a Democrat caucus, I can't imagine that I might not throw something at someone, but I'm also not running for anything. I just have no patience for that whole party. I hear Bob Menendez is available for a consultation with him, with his gold bars. He also may have mortgage fraud in there somewhere that entered into a tax lien. He paid it off right away when they found out about it. He should fit in fine with that party. But Democrats put themselves in this place. Graham Plattner has had all kinds of controversy since day one. Look, we found out about his Nazi tattoo almost a year ago. And they thought they could, we're just going to ride this one out and be fine. Turned out he had a whole pile of other stuff. The best was when Bernie Sanders was asked this weekend, he's like, sir, do you vet the people you endorse?
You are confident that with your endorsements, these other candidates have been fully vetted?
Well, look, I think there are hundreds of candidates. I don't know who has been, quote unquote, fully vetted.
Well, you just mentioned two of them.
All I know is the candidates. Well, all I know is, Margaret, that the candidates that we are supporting are standing up for the working class of this country.
Oh, really? No vetting whatsoever? Just someone tells you, hey, Bernie, put your reputation on the line for this rando that you have no idea. It seems like a good idea. I mean, weed is legal in Vermont. That's how they get to this stuff. It would be one thing if this was a one-off, but this is super common. Not weed in Vermont with Bernie Sanders. That is also common. But it goes to the disorganization within the entire Democrat Party. They also broke right now that they had to put the DNC headquarters in Washington, D.C. up for his collateral to get money. This is after Kamala Harris stiffed him for $20 million in debt from her campaign. And these people want to manage the nation's budget. Hard pass on that, pal. This cycle, they've asked their vendors also to not bill them until after the November. Do 6 months of work for free for us. We promise we'll pay you. If I was a consultant, I would be like, dude, pound sand. There's no way I'm going to wait till you win the seat because, like, they're just not going to get paid. Plus, this all goes to show you how little they care about little business owners. They are a party without money, they're without message, and apparently without memory.
And if modest or minor challenges emerge, such as the one that was disclosed voluntarily by the authorities in New Jersey, that it is immediately corrected. Unfortunately, what we've seen from Donald Trump is that in this particular case, Republicans have adopted voter suppression as an electoral strategy.
Yeah. You want a do-over? Because, like, you guys are pretty much like the party of anti-ICE. I can make you look stupid. Too late, though.
Right now in U.S. Congress, that qualified immunity for ICE agents must end, and if necessary, ICE must be abolished.
We can just, I don't know, abolish ICE and take that money.
We must abolish ICE, period.
We need to abolish ICE and replace it. We need to stop funding ICE that's violating human rights.
And it is why I support ripping ICE apart and holding them accountable.
The funny thing is the way the federal government works. If they were to abolish ICE and start a new agency, you do realize that in the federal hiring system, all the ICE agents who are out of work would all start working for the new agency, so nothing would change. But just a few more recaps. The Democrats say, oh, no, we don't. You know, we never said we wanted to abolish ICE. New York City Comptroller Brad Lander was arrested more than once at ICE protests. He spoke at anti-ICE rallies and marches, including ones that are people marching around with, like, stand against ICE signs. Arrested with, State Senator Julia Salazar, Gustavo Rivera, a couple assembly members in New York. The Newark, New Jersey mayor was arrested on trespassing charges during a confrontation while present with members of Congress trying to push their way into an ICE facility. You got reps like LaMonica McIver. She got arrested she faces charges for this. Bonnie Watson Coleman and Rob Menendez. Senator Chris Murphy, my senator in Connecticut. You got Jayapal and Maxwell Frost from Florida speaking out about abolishing ICE all the time.
If we really want to strip down ICE and rebuild it, make the Department of Homeland Security operate legally every single day, we've got to win elections.
As soon as we get the gavels back, we have to dismantle DHS and ICE and CBP.
As we see ICE in our community, terrorizing our people, kidnapping Americans, human trafficking people across the entire world, our position is simple. We will not fund that.
You guys did lose like 300,000 children under Biden. But, I mean, what do I know? Bernie Sanders headlined like multiple No Kings rallies and chants about no ICE, and not one Democrat voted to fund them. They all held DHS, all of DHS, not just that. They held TSA. We were in the airport lines for like 4 hours. The entire Democrat Party is so far left, it's insane. They are considering Zoran Mamdani for Times Person of the Year. The DSA, the Democrat Socialists of America, are apparently leading the Democrat Party around on a leash, which is why they've chalked up about 35 major primary wins on socialism in their party. Keep in mind, look at all these people on these screen right here, all far left, running on socialism. And most of them, though, they're winning through a plurality. They're not winning head-to-head, which is why, out of all the primary candidates for 2028, Pete Buttigieg is winning the polls. You know it's bad when Pete Buttigieg, the most vanilla white guy, I guess he's gay, so he checks that box, whose only qualification to run for president in 2020 was that he didn't fix a pothole in the hometown of South Bend, Indiana, when he was mayor. His campaign sticker should just be like a warm cup of oatmeal. He became transportation secretary because he likes choo-choo trains, who, in that job, went on paternity leave for a child he didn't father during the worst supply chain crisis since Jimmy Carter, while ships were stacking up in the ocean waiting to offload. He couldn't figure that one out. Nope, got a chest feed with a fake boob. That guy is the front runner for the Democrats, the party screaming about reparations because they care so much about black people, and their leading candidate polled at literally 0 black people. And then They see this as like, oh, this is all becoming a dumpster fire, guys. We got to go back to the strategy. And what's the strategy? The strategy is, let's try to be normal again with women like this.
Some of them might be the coastal elites making fun of how I talk. But let's be real. They're making fun of Michigan. They're thinking they're better than us. And what they don't know is I am your voice. And their jokes and their criticism only makes me fight harder.
I'm not making fun of Michigan. I'm making fun of you, lady. And if you have to check notes, let's be real. If you have to check your notes to be real, you're not being real. My family they're like, we are lifelong Michiganders, okay? My family's businesses have been tied to Ford and Stroh's beer. Hell, my dad used to ship Verner's ginger ale from Detroit to our house in Connecticut. But Democrats destroyed Detroit, and they ruined its economy. They've been in charge for like 60 years over there. The place is a dump. Look, I can say I'm surprised that Democrats did exactly what they did in Maine, but I'm not. This is why even their own party doesn't like them.
Look now in 2026. We're not just talking down there underneath the Potomac. We're talking down there with the Titanic. We're talking 24 points underwater. And this is just the party overall. This isn't the congressional leadership. This is the party. The party. It's just a terrible, terrible, terrible brand. Terrible.
They're like, Trump's down a point or two with it. You guys are at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. They have normalized doing just whatever they want. They don't care about you. This is why we can't let them get back power, because they're just going to do the same thing that we, the people, like when they are in charge, they're going to be like, hey, screw you guys. We don't care. Look, Republicans aren't much better, but they're less bad. 80% of the country wants voter ID, yet every single Democrat is voting against it, and only some Republicans are voting against it. The Maine right now is a national barometer of how Democrats conduct themselves and would conduct nationwide, and how they feel about your vote. The guy was breaking Plattner stories left and right leading up to this bailing race. Editor-in-chief of the Maine Wire, Steve Robinson, and Maine Assistant House Minority Leader Katrina Smith. All right, Steve, I'm not surprised they ditched Graham. I'm surprised it took this long. But now they got this new guy who's apparently the same thing.
Yeah, Troy Jackson has been trying to describe himself as an outsider because he saw it work for Graham Plattner, but you couldn't get much more of an insider in Maine politics. This is a guy who's been involved in politics since I was in the 5th grade. He was first elected in the 2000s, and he was actually a conservative Republican then. He was pro-gun, he was pro-life, he was pro-worker. He actually, at least purported to represent the working people of Northern Maine. And he ended his career as the Senate president of the Democratic Party, having passed a 9-month late-term abortion bill, having passed gun control laws, having passed some of the most extreme tax increases. This guy actually, he was pro-gun for 20 years, okay? Then his son's law firm gets $50,000 from the gun control lobby. He flips within a month and starts voting in favor of gun control.
But Katrina, he tells everybody he's a lumberjack. I mean, I cut down a tree this weekend. That doesn't make me a lumberjack.
No, Troy Jackson is pretending to be a person, a working man. He's been in the lobbies of Augusta with this huge ego for, like Steve said, 20 years. This is a man who thinks that throwing a swear word in every other sentence nowadays is making him more of a working man. He's pretended all along, and that's how he operates. He's not for the people. He's for the far left. He's proven it again and again.
Yeah, Steve, your outlet actually recently reported this. This is actually wild, that Plattner may actually be in some hot water over Medicaid fraud. I mean, I knew he was bad, but now he's doing Somali stuff.
Yes, it's actually his wife, Amy Gertner, has been investigated for acting like a Somali. This really, though, is a story about how corrupt Maine is generally. This was leaked as a sign to Plattner, hey, buddy, you better drop out of the race or we're going to investigate and indict your wife for Medicaid fraud. That's what the leak told me. But yes, she apparently stole, allegedly, according to the investigation, $9,000 worth of Medicaid benefits, which raises questions, frankly, as to whether she and Graham Plattner are even married because she should be eligible for his benefits because he's a 100% disabled spouse.
Yeah, so crazy to me. Ah, man, this world. But now, Katrina, the Senate Leadership Fund is committing $42 million in the race against Jackson. I mean, I would think they could do this for like $7 to $8 total, but roll this.
A volatile personality, anger issues with women, verbal abuse. It's not Graham Plattner, it's Troy Jackson. Jackson has a history of conflicts with women, bullying, even intimidation. Jackson's conduct was so bad, his fellow Democrats raised alarm bells about his temperament. Jackson is like Graham Plattner, but worse. Decades as a political insider, accused of mortgage fraud, unpaid taxes, and bankrolled by powerful lobbyists. That's the real Troy Jackson. SLF PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Doesn't seem like there's any lies there.
No, but what we've seen is that the people of Maine who are far left socialists are committed to that cause. They didn't care about Plattner for a full year. It's going to take some digging in to really reveal who Troy Jackson is to them and make sure that people stay with the senator who has supported them for years, brought money to Maine, Susan Collins.
Yeah, and like I said, Republicans are Susan Collins is a knight in shining armor compared to what the alternative is there. Steve, Katrina, we appreciate both of you.
Thanks.
All right, coming up, the Senate is ready to leave Washington for its August recess, but President Trump says, better no. He's demanding lawmakers stay until they pass the Save America Act. We're going to see if that actually happens in a bit. But first, fixation on fame. Newly released COVID diaries share exactly what we all thought about Anthony Fauci's world during COVID. A man who says he was sidelined by big science, former CDC director Dr. Robert Redfield sounds off next.
Every day across the globe, big business agendas go unseen by investors. Things that go against your core values and beliefs. It's time to know your investments. Abortion, alternative lifestyles, gender and identity confusion. If you believe in protecting marriage and life, children, innocence, guarding masculinity, restoring families, defending religious liberty, invest with your values. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Most people call leaf filter when their gutters are clogged and they notice one of the many issues that can bring. You can get ahead of costly damage by protecting your home's gutters today.
Schedule your free inspection today. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com.
It's me, Ricky. You grew up with me. I am using Fatty 15 to get me to feel and look the best I've ever felt at my age. The C15 nutrient has been known to strengthen our cells and slow the aging process at a cellular level. I urge you to try Fatty 15.
Yes! Yes! Some breaking news for you. The audio tapes that Joe Biden wanted hidden for years have been released. Now, these are the audio tapes between Biden and his ghostwriter, Mark Zwansner or whatever, reportedly containing him discussing classified information. You know, the thing that they raided Mar-a-Lago for. These recordings were cited in the special counsel Robert Hur's 2024 report. We're going to be all over this tomorrow. We're going to let the internet crowdsource it a bit so we can get everything in. Anyway, Senator Rand Paul has released Anthony Fauci's personal diaries entries. These are good. They paint this picture of this guy, Fauci, you see on screen, more focused on his celebrity and, image and everything like that than he was actually confronting the global pandemic as people were dying, most of which, are debatable. But one entry from May 2020 read, "Big front page article about me appeared in the Washington Post. Very flattering. The situation with my national and international fame is explosive and really Can you imagine actually writing that about yourself? Keep in mind, by this point, nearly 100,000 Americans had already died during this pandemic. Now, with Fauci set to testify before the Senate on Wednesday, I kind of expect lawmakers to have plenty of questions. Former CDC Director Dr. Robert Redfield, who was sidelined because of health officials like Fauci that wanted a single narrative on COVID. Doctor, this is, to me, I'm looking at this, I'm like, yes, I knew this from day one, but so many people denied that this guy was an egomaniac.
Yeah, it's just very disappointing, Carl. I mean, I think if you read the diaries, and I read some of them, it is disappointing how focused Dr. Fauci was on his perception in the media. I mean, we were trying to confront a major public health crisis, as you know, probably the biggest one we had in over 100 years. And the focus really needed to be on that. So I was surprised to read the diary the way I did. I was also surprised to see how, in a way, honest he was about his own personal opinion, that he was not confident in the wet market, that he thought the lab origin was highly credible, if you read his diaries. But that's not how he presented it publicly. He obviously, in my view, really did mislead Congress and the American public to try to advance it.
But this is a guy who said, we must follow the science, and it turns out he was following the fame. This is a guy who blocked certain type of aid and made fun of people that were like, hey, we should try vitamin D or zinc or, ivermectin or things like that. And he crushed anybody. And on top of that, he insisted that it wasn't his idea to close schools. But as we can see, roll this.
If you go back, and I ask anybody to go back over the number of times that I've said we've got to do everything we can to keep the schools open, no one plays that clip. They always come back and say Fauci was responsible for closing schools. I had nothing to do. Let's get down to the facts.
But in his diary, he brags about closing schools. Doctor?
Yeah, he did, and it's very disappointing because, I always tried to argue that the public health interest of K through 12 was to keep them in face-to-face learning. And obviously, Tony had a great influence on a number of the governors that chose to take an alternative approach and close the schools.
Yeah.
And in his diary, he basically said that he was very proud of his interaction with Bill de Blasio, who I also talked to, and got de Blasio to close the schools. And he did something very similar in California. So big mistake. I hope on Wednesday he's honest and tells the truth and maybe, makes it clear that he made a lot of mistakes and acknowledged them. But, I'm not sure he's going to do that.
Well, I mean, he's got this pardon, and Republicans aren't going to prosecute him because they apparently don't have a backbone. And it's also past the statute of limitations from the last time he lied to Congress, so we'll see. But, Biden's chief of staff, Jeff Zients, said to Politico that it was about to write this negative story. And this is my big problem is they went and influenced media. They censored us on social media. They told doctors they couldn't say things. They threatened people's medical license. And then they went to the media and said, if you don't write it this way, we're going to strong arm you into forcing you to do it. That's not following the science.
No, there's no doubt about it. And when he made the comment that, if you object to me, you object to science because I am science. I mean, that was really inappropriate comment. I know I argued with Tony that we needed to have a transparent public debate about the two hypotheses, the one that I favored, that it came from the lab, and the one that he was a proponent of, that it came from the wet market. And clearly it's he was scientifically astute enough to know that it likely came from the lab, not the wet market. And when you read the diary, you can see that they had pretty good understanding that it came from the lab, but then they sort of put this roost on the American public that it somehow came from the wet market, to protect the fact that they didn't want the public to think that this pandemic, the greatest pandemic we had in 100 years, killed over 20 million people worldwide, it didn't come from nature. It came from science.
Weird that government would do something in one country that we don't like against us. That's so strange. Dr. Robert Redfield, you know what? A lot of this proves that you were right from day one, so we appreciate it, sir.
Yeah, Carl. Thanks. God bless.
All right. Still to come, we got an update about the Tennessee farmer we had on Friday and how the IRS responded to the calls. That's later in the show. But next, elderly woman in Michigan's, actually there are tons of them, are tied to tens of thousands of donations to left-wing campaigns. But are they really the ones behind the contributions? Well, we got more on this story and the guy who investigated it next.
People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for the record on Newsmax.
The next thing that I heard was you have to have surgery immediately or you have 4 months to live.
Our world changed that day.
Every 15 seconds in America, someone like Jay hears the words, "You have cancer." But your monthly gift helps fund the cancer research that saves people's lives. Donate today, and we'll send you this free t-shirt. Cancer won't wait, and neither can we. Donate today.
As history's preeminent expert on emergency communication, I fully endorse Rapid Radios. They are the only nationwide license-free push-to-talk walkie-talkies without any monthly fees. That's right, you get access to most carriers' networks without a contract. With Rapid Radios, you can communicate instantly from this Washington to that one. Isn't that right, George?
Darn straight. And I don't lie. That's my thing.
Now I know what you're thinking. I don't need no fancy highfalutin walkie-talkie. I've got a cell phone. Cell phones are notoriously unreliable during emergency and when you're in the middle of nowhere. Plus, rapid radios are great for remote adventures, emergency preparedness, and workplace communications, and for keeping in touch with your loved ones.
Hey, Pa. Over.
You make me so proud, son. Over. Get your family connected with Rapid Radios today.
Go to rapidradios.com and get up to 60% off today. Plus, free shipping. Rapid Radios, the best way to stay connected.
It's 2 a.m., your fever spiked and you're miserable. Here's your options.
Urgent care, closed. ER, slammed, and you'll spend hundreds of thousands in both. Telehealth, yeah, but the pharmacies are closed.
That's the reason why we keep emergency medical kits at home.
It has doctor-prescribed medication like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other antibiotics and antivirals. You can treat flu, pneumonia, strep, sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
Because if you're sick in at night, traveling or stranded, you don't want options.
You want what is inside this kit. No waiting, no pharmacy, and no copays.
Just schedule a quick telehealth call.
And that's how you feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
Every family should have this kit, and here's how to order yours.
Order online in minutes and use the promo code to save $45. Your doctor-prescribed kit ships fast to your door, packed with medications to treat over 30 conditions. So when something hits, you're ready. And a wellness company telehealth doctor is always there if you need guidance.
My dad had never been in better shape. Then he had a stroke and passed away. But he had life insurance. So even after he was gone, he was still taking care of us. Ethos.com, 10 minutes, 100% online.
Check your price today at ethos.com.
My name is Karen, and I'm the head pharmacist at Corvallis Drug. This pharmacy has actually been here for over 100 years. I love the fact that I know all of my customers by name. We'll get customers come in and they're looking for a brain supplement, and Prevagen is the one I recommend. My husband, I put him on it about 6 months ago, and he's noticed a difference. I've noticed a difference in him. It's just a product that I believe in.
Prevagen has been the #1 selling brain supplement nationwide for over 10 years.
So remember last week we brought you that story about the 88-year-old Michigan woman, Elizabeth Waffle.
Are you Elizabeth Waffle?
Yeah.
It says here that you've donated $150,000 in the last 5 years to various campaigns, and that you've made nearly 15,000 donations.
I doubt it. Everything goes through ActBlue. ActBlue is like the bank.
So everything you do goes through ActBlue. You don't go to amyklobuchar.com and donate.
No, I do everything through ActBlue.
Oh.
That woman, living in the trailer since her house burned down. She didn't have the money to rebuild it, but if you went to the FEC website, it would show that she made nearly 15,000 individual donations totaling $150,000 living on a fixed income in a trailer. We're supposed to believe that she made 8 donations a day without a computer every single day for the past 5 years, averaging more than $9 each donation. Yeah, okay. She was one. How many more out there? How does this happen? How did they find her? Well, let's ask the man behind that story, investigative journalist and host of No BS NewsHour, Charlie LeDuff. All right, Charlie, how'd you find this woman? Was it easy, hard? Should an investigator have been able to find this out?
Yeah, you can, man. It's pretty simple. You go to FEC, you download it, you put it through Excel, you do your work, you call up AI, check the work, then you put it back to Excel, always check AI, and then it's a simple search. There's the lady out there in the country. You drive out to the country, voila. I don't even have internet. I don't have a computer. If you go to Michigan Enjoy her, and you watch that clip, she's trying to do it on her phone, right? She's 88. She's going like this, like it's a transistor. Oh, this dumb thing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you would think that, I don't know, the FBI might be able to figure out what you figured out, but I don't know. Maybe that's asking a lot.
I thought they were trying.
Yeah.
So where's the report?
We've been on this story, by the way, for like well over 2 years. After we reported on this Miss Waffles $150K to Act Blue, I received a boatload of emails from a ton of people. Now, one woman emailed, and we're not going to put her name up, but she says, hey, hold up a sec. I donated once to a wildlife organization. And now her PayPal receipt lists Act Blue, and she's getting email fundraisers from Democrat candidates. So we thought we'd look into it, and sure enough, dude, it's happening. On the screen, we are scrolling. Charities performed by Act Blue with just search items of wildlife, animal, Catholic charities, and cancer. And the Act Blue directory is the fundraising mechanism. There's over 30 names just from like a 10-second search on their website. So people think they're donating to cancer, and all of a sudden their name and email and donation stuff ends up in the Democrat coffer donor base.
And well, then you should look to see if you're actually making donations. That's what everybody should do. If I could, you want to know how prevalent this is. My friend Bob Cushman, he's the data guru, and then we go back and forth and we figure out where's the best place to strike. Here's what we got. In Michigan, we've identified 120 Smurfs, right? Blue carriers of the money. Their average age is 74. Since Act Blue opened up about 20 years ago, they've made $750,000 donations. That's 120 people. Over $16 million. A little bit more numbers. That's 6,250 donations each. That's 312 days a year for 20 years. $21.30 per donation. Now, for people like Abdul El Sayed, I'm not taking corporate money. I don't know what money you are taking, bro, but if you're accepting this money and you don't understand how Act Blue's working, then you shouldn't be around other people's money.
Right.
Give the money back.
It's crazy, too, and we actually, talk about corporations. They're not taking money from corporations. Well, Act Blue is a pretty big corporation. They are rolling. They take a 3.5% processing fee. They have collected more than $62 million in fees just in 2025 alone. They raised, using their platform, $1.78 billion in small donations alone. Now, Act Blue donations dwarf the Republican side, which is Win Red, which has only raised about a third of that. Now, explain to me, in simple terms, how Republicans, rolling in dough right now, have a third of the donations, and Democrats are broke, and they took in 3 times as much.
I don't know. I just know there's a little old lady in a trailer who can't understand how she made it $150,000. Now, it's important to play off what you said. Okay, if you're not taking corporate donations and you're taking small donations, and the small elderly donors have no idea about it, where did that money really come from? Because Congress has found some's come from overseas, some's come from
which is illegal,
donors who are jumping over the limits. Maybe it's legal. It doesn't look legal to me. I'm just going to be honest.
Any overseas, that's the thing. Our political system must be accountable. But Charlie LeDuff, keep up the good work, man. We'll have you back on next time you blow something up.
Thank you, dude. The best decision they made was putting you in the 6.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You got it.
All right, coming up, chaos at Seattle Food Festival, a mass shooting leaving 3 dead, 4 injured, and police say 1 suspect is still on the run. So that's good. Culture Clash next.
This Friday on Carl Higbie Frontline. Don't miss Carl Higbie live from Goals in Des Moines. Marking 50 years of defending Second Amendment rights. Friday on Carl Higbie Frontline.
Now, tirzepatide for weight management is available in a dissolvable tablet. It's not the injection and doesn't offer the same strength or clinical evidence as the injectable form, and results will differ from the injection. But for patients who don't want shots, this tablet option is worth exploring. Understanding results will differ from the injection. Tirzepatide tablets are a prescription that starts with a telehealth evaluation by a licensed physician who reviews your health history. And if it's right for you, they prescribe it. This might be worth a conversation.
Today's AI capabilities can make your head spin, but for scammers, it's the ultimate tool. They're using AI to exploit tech gaps and slip past traditional security. PCmatic keeps your information private and devices safe with online security solutions developed in America to protect Americans. Built for homes, businesses, and government agencies. Secure 5 devices for just $50 for your first year. Get online protection at PCmatic.com.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
Attention! Do you owe money to the IRS? If you owe $10,000 or more, you must hear this message because new Trump-era tax policy changes are providing relief to the American taxpayer. IRS policy changes in 2025 and 2026 have created new ways to resolve debt. Tax Relief Helpers knows exactly how to navigate them and could help you save thousands. Just call 800-357-9528 to protect your assets, home, and retirement.
I owed $87,000 in taxes. Tax Relief Helpers got the amount I owed down to just $3,500. I saved $83,500.
I got behind on my taxes and I owed $48,000. I called, and after they told me about the changes at the IRS, they got my bill fully removed.
We save Americans millions of dollars in tax debt every year, and we can help you. Call right now to take advantage of the latest Trump-era tax deductions to protect your assets, home, and retirement from the IRS. The call and consult are absolutely free. Call 800-357-9528. That's 800-357-9528. Attention! Do you owe money to the IRS? If you owe $10,000 or more, you must hear this message because new Trump-era tax policy changes are providing relief to the American taxpayer. IRS policy changes in 2025 and 2026 have created new ways to resolve debt. Tax Relief Helpers knows exactly how to navigate them and could help you save thousands. Just call 800-357-9528 to protect your assets, home, and retirement.
I owed $87,000 in taxes. Tax Relief Helpers got the amount I owed down to just $3,500. I saved $83,500.
I got behind on my taxes and I owed $48,000. I called, and after they told me about the changes at the IRS, they got my bill fully removed.
We save Americans millions of dollars in tax debt every year, and we can help you. Call right now to take advantage of the latest Trump-era tax deductions to protect your assets, home, and retirement from the IRS. The call and consults are absolutely free. Call 800-357-9528. That's 800-357-9528.
So a manhunt is underway in Seattle after a deadly shooting that happened last night left 3 people dead and 4 others injured. 2 suspects reportedly opened fire at each other at a crowded food festival under the Space Needle. Now, 1 suspect has been detained, with police only describing them as a 15-year-old young person. How the hell did they get a gun? That's against the law. I thought we weren't doing that anymore. Well, the other person was believed to have fled the scene. I guess the gun-free zone signs didn't help this one either. Political strategist Luke Ball and Daily Caller senior politics reporter Ashley Brasfield. Luke, we saw a picture of the guy, one of the guys in custody. I wonder what the other guy looks like, but also at a vigil for the Berlin Pride terror attack. There was a Pride terror attack in Germany, and a singer came on stage and was like, well, I hoped it was a white Christian. It's like, spoiler alert, he was Islamist, but these people just want a narrative. They don't want to fix the problem.
You're right. They just want a narrative. The mask is off. They could care less about the people who are dying in the streets. I mean, I think the Democrats are totally fine with the status quo, and the leftists and liberals who mirror that ideology overseas want the exact same thing. Another thing here, Carl, so many of these crimes are being committed by 15-year-olds. The majority of carjackings in D.C. are done by like 12-year-olds. There was a quote locally in a newspaper that said, "I was carjacked by a child." Where are the parents? Where are the families? Yeah. Where's the accountability? They are steeped in blue cities who are content with the status quo, which is blood flowing in the streets. I don't know what it's going to take for them to wake up.
Yeah, well, apparently they don't even want to blame the thing that is causing the attacks, but whatever. Ashley, we spoke about this last week with these flock cameras, and we had somebody on to talk about that. But now we find out, thanks to your reporting, that they actually have drones flying around too. So if I'm like, I don't know, laying naked in my backyard and this drone flies over, all of a sudden my naked body tanning in my secluded area of my backyard goes into some database somewhere.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I'm astonished that they can't find that shooter on the run, considering all the flock cameras. They must not have license plate readers, or they must have not fled by car, I guess, because you would think with the drones, the cameras, the mass surveillance that's happening with these things across the board.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It would be pretty easy to solve crime across, and I would say, we're seeing shortages across police departments nationally. Well, they're saying, this is helping solve crime. I'd like to see those statistics rather than the database collection of data and the usage of that in comparison to the statistics of the crime solved here. So I think that's a valuable question for a lot of Americans here, and why there's so much concern. That's even catching, members of Congress's attention, putting legislation for it. I mean, we saw this today with Tim Burchett. We saw this with the mayor of Knoxville, Tennessee, who is a former WWE fighter. He has enough common sense to realize it possibly could be an issue.
Yes, and where I live up at my farm, it is over 10 acres, and I can lawfully discharge a firearm. If one of those flies over, I will shoot it down. Luke, we covered this when the petition was first launched, speaking of shooting, months ago. It's a petition in Oregon to ban hunting, fishing, commercial slaughter of animals, and all this other stuff. It failed to qualify for the November ballot. They got 143,000 signatures, but 40,000 of them were invalid. I wonder what their voter rolls look like.
It's a great question. This is something to celebrate that we've won by defeating it. However, it means they're inching closer to actually getting it on the ballot and establishing a national narrative to try to push this type of ideology nationwide, because the left plays in increments. If they got this far this time, they'll try again in a few years, and they'll get more on the ballot or on the petition. They'll get more signatures as time goes on. So don't be complacent if this is happening in your own state. It doesn't mean that you have won the entire victory. It just means we've won this time. But watch, they're going to keep trying, not just with this ridiculous proposal, but with a lot of other ridiculous things as well.
But Ashley, I look at this, and this just shows how little they understand about economics, because it was just going to crush 300,000 jobs. But now you've got, on the other side of the country, here in New York, Ma'am Danny's announced that he's going to be opening 5 city-run, tax-funded grocery stores. Just watch this really quick.
Here's how it will work. Once a month, our 5 city-run grocery stores will set prices for this core set of goods at 30% below typical retail prices. No exceptions, no gimmicks.
No revenue, apparently, either.
Yeah, and who's paying for that again, Carl? Oh, the taxpayers. That's right, of New York City. So I think that's the whole point here. This is a very obvious situation. Mamdani ran on socialist campaign, basically, at this point. So I think, and nobody should be shocked by this. I mean, this is the first step towards socialism, is government-run grocery stores. But ultimately, nothing is free. Nothing is discounted here. The taxpayers ultimately pay the price.
Yes, that literally is the definition of socialism. They're like, oh, it's Democrat socialism. It's just you democratically vote for the socialism. Then you got to shoot your way out of it. But Luke, Ashley, pleasure as always. Thanks, Carl. All right, coming up, Trump sends a clear message to Senate Majority Leader John Thune. Time to pass the Save America Act now. My thoughts next.
I'm Elmer Heinrich, at 92 years of age, with my wife Shirley, who is 83. Now, both of us are still cutting a wide swath in life, all because of Immuno 150. Now, we are asking you to use Immuno 150 like we do. Give it a chance for at least 90 days so that you can see what 70 plant minerals and 80 additional nutrients can do for you.
It really is incredible.
Don't place your order until after you've watched the 3 videos on our website.
Where's my mother gonna... Oh, no. Is this the episode with the breakup?
Reba, we can't agree on the house.
Y'all need Realtor.com. With over 500,000 new listings every month, you could find the one today. This could be it. Better put a key ring on it. Realtor.com.
Ridge is back with our 6th annual sweepstakes. With prizes so epic, we needed a spokesperson to match.
These are pretty nice. You can win a Lamborghini, souped-up trucks, or $100,000 cash.
Enter to win for free at ridge.com.
Wait, free?
Yeah.
My friends, I come to you today on behalf of the Jewish people in Ukraine whose lives have been completely destroyed. Family and loved ones brutally killed. The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is inside of Ukraine, providing emergency food and supplies to tens of thousands of people.
I am shocked how many elderly people came here. They're afraid, and they realize now that there are more people than boxes.
For just $25, you can help rush an emergency food box to the elderly Jews in Ukraine. Many of them are hungry, frightened, and alone. Today, there's a special opportunity to double your gift's impact. Call now, and your gift's impact will be doubled.
The people of Ukraine are caught in the crosshairs of war. Many of these precious people are Holocaust survivors, elderly Jews who are sick and dying. They have no food, and we must reach them now before it's too late.
The world is in a war again. I am alone. I'm afraid of the bombs. I'm scared. I am old. There is no food.
Just $25 helps rush emergency food to elderly Jews in Ukraine who are in urgent need today. Please call, scan, or go online right now.
I will not starve. Thank you, good people.
We can be the hope to the Jewish people who are suffering in Ukraine. Your help is desperately needed now.
Thanks to generous fellowship partners. Call now and your gift's impact will be doubled.
Have you ever in your wildest dreams taken a 37-day vacation? I certainly haven't, but that's what our elected officials are proposing. Actually, they only work about half the year. So, I'm 100% with Trump on this one. When he was like, hey, John Thune should not allow the United States Senate to leave town until the Save America Act, passes. I mean, come on. They strap us with $40 trillion in debt. They give us laws that we don't even like or didn't ask for, but they do benefit their donors. No Save America Act. And then they're just like, I'm going home. They say they're talking to their constituents and blah, blah, blah. Jim Himes never talks to me. They're probably not. They might talk to somebody sometimes, but by and large, they're fundraising to keep their tail in office, or they're just off. Okay? And then when you need something passed, like we need the Save America Act passed. I mean, we really need that. There's always some reason why they can't do it.
Relationship with John Thune. He's just got to get his job done. You got to get the Save America Act passed. Or better than that would be the filibuster. If you terminate the filibuster, everything happens. If you don't terminate the filibuster, only bad things will happen.
Yeah, really bad things. And they're always whining, well, we can't do it because the parliamentarian, or we don't have the votes, or pick any excuse whatsoever. They're like, oh, wait, here's an updated photo of Mitch McConnell's proof of life. How about a video? That's why we can't pass this stuff, because they're not even being honest with us. Your job is to get stuff done. And we've had this discussion that Thune could fire the parliamentarian who allegedly is the one holding all this up. He could fire her at any time. J.D. Vance could fire her at any time. They could pass the Save America Act if they wanted to, but they don't, which leads me to believe all kinds of other things about how they're in on the whole game and everything like that. But Trump laid out exactly what's going on here by posting, whichever party terminates the filibuster first will be the party that survives and thrives. Yup. And you know how they will? Because Democrats will definitely do this, 100%. If you're arguing with me, We have nothing in common, okay? You're probably a vegan, too. Because Democrats under Harry Reid were the ones who removed the 60-vote threshold for judges, specifically for the Supreme Court. And now that's the standard. Democrats just do stuff. It's good, it's bad, whatever, mostly bad. They just do whatever they want, and then they deal with it later. Like, this is my most hated thing. They will pass laws that they know are not constitutional. They're like, this one's not going to pass muster. And then when they get overturned, they're like, whatever, we're protected by the speech and debate clause, and you can't charge us for anything, so we're just going to pass another law that essentially does the same thing. Sometimes they don't even listen to the courts. Now you've got places like Hawaii. This is insane to me. Hawaii's Supreme Court says it refuses to abide by racist SCOTUS ruling. That's not how it works, okay? Some Hawaii judges were like, we disagree with the Supreme Court, so we're just not going to listen to them. And we're going to, rule on the things that we think, that we want. I'm sorry. That's literally the definition of a revolution. That's actually an insurrection. That's right. They tried to pin that on people on January 6th for walking within ropes inside the Capitol that they were led into. Totally par for the course for Democrats. Like I laid out earlier, when something is inconvenient, they just deny it's happening. So much so that CNN is even calling them out for it.
Now, Democrats have repeatedly said that non-citizen voting doesn't happen. It happened. Is this a problem?
I think that I continue to have confidence in state and local authorities in making sure that there's going to be a free and fair election in November.
They know there's a problem. They just won't say it. Like, dude, are you that much of an ostrich that you're just going to stick your head in the ground or somewhere else and think it's all just going to go away in your state, Cory Booker? I mean, that's not Cory Booker, actually Hakeem Jeffries. Again, they just want to do whatever they want. And then they call us crazy when we're like, yo, this is not right. Just like this, the big, beautiful bill that Trump got passed had huge tax breaks, including no tax on tips, on the first chunk of tips you got. Not enough, but it was way better than what we had. And what did Democrats do? Dozens of Democrat-led states still taxing tips, overtime, Social Security. A year after Trump's big, beautiful bill became law, yes, still taking taxes on all that. Connecticut, my home state, Minnesota, New Mexico, Rhode Island, Vermont. Oh, the worst. Like, screw you, Mr. Bartender. Screw you, Miss Waitress. We're going to keep taxing you. Same party that says, oh, we're for the little guy. And now 80% of America wants something. And they're like, no, we got to take a 37-day vacation. That's why when, Mike Johnson is like, we need to raise pay for. I laugh at people like him when he says that. They have all their travel covered. Their staff gets paid from a different pot. These guys get driven around in Uber black cars. They go to benefits and dinners with no cost. Look, I have been guests at these things before. They roll out the red carpet. All their expenses and random other stuff are paid for out of their campaign too. And then wherever they go. And it's simply because they're elected and they sit there. And judging by the current field, that's a pretty low bar. They're just... Republicans are just the least bad. Congress and Senator, none of these guys are an example for my children. Are they for yours? I don't think so. Before we go, every day we fight for you, the American people. Up next, the story we told you about last week, we won. It's fixed. Next.
Everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmidt tonight on Newsmax.
Thousands of beagles bred for lab testing are trapped in cages, screaming to be saved. They need help now. iPaw Rescue is a nonprofit founded by legendary business activist Carl Icahn.
Research is being done on these dogs, and it's cruel and unnecessary. Now, with AI, you don't have to torture these animals. Beagles are most commonly used because of their gentle, trusting nature. Think about that. Their greatest quality is being used against them. With your support, we had a historic breakthrough. iPaw Rescue Network helped save over 2,000 beagles and shut down the second largest breeding facility in the country. The fight is not over. We intend to keep going until every cage is empty.
Your donation of $19 will help rescue and transport the beagles to safety.
Right now, I'm going to match every dollar that comes in.
Join us in the movement to end the crisis in animal welfare.
Call 1-800-379-9914 or visit ipawrescue.org.
Nice Oakleys, Stipe. Where'd you get them?
GovX.com. Man, I gotta get me one of those. Where'd you get it? GovX.com.
Hey, Stipe, nice boots. Where'd you get those?
GovX.com. Use it. Exclusive deals for first responders, military, and law enforcement only at GovX.com.
Hey, I'm Dr. Drew. You know, our cells oxidize, and fatty 15 reduces that risk of cellular membrane oxidation called ferroptosis. C15 is the longevity nutrient. I just find it so fascinating that it was a veterinarian studying the Navy's fleet of dolphins who discovered C15's importance to the health of mammalian dolphins and mammalian humans. I take this nutrient, my family takes the nutrients, you should too. Fatty 15 has benefits that people actually see and feel.
At Ancestry, we believe every question about the past is a spark. And when curiosity strikes about the everyday lives of your family, we're here with answers only your ancestors can provide. How is your family woven into 250 years of U.S. history? Find out now at Ancestry.
If you find yourself stopping more and more to catch your breath, you could be experiencing what we call temporary oxygen insufficiency. Give yourself a boost with Boost Oxygen. A few deep breaths of Boost Oxygen is all you need to help combat the negative effects of what we call temporary oxygen insufficiency.
Now I live life on my terms. With Boost Oxygen, I am unstoppable.
Get all-natural 5-star respiratory support with Boost Oxygen at these fine retailers.
You know, when I came in here, I was at a 15, and that's no joke. My spinal cord was almost severed. I feel like I'm gaining my freedom. My pain level of the day is nothing.
No pain now? No. Okay, feels good? Yep.
And I can feel my legs waking up and getting feeling back in my leg and my foot I haven't had in a year and a half, 2 years. I feel like I'm getting my life back.
Venati succeeds where others fail.
Let's end tonight on a positive note. On Friday, we brought you the story of, I believe, Wilson Perry Kirby, who received that $20,000 from the IRS in error, tried to give it back, and then the IRS screwed everything up and they charged him like $5,000 in interest. Well, the Trump administration corrected the record and issued Mr. Kirby a full refund. He is no longer responsible for any interest. John Rich, who I spoke with Friday, posted on X this weekend and said whoever was responsible for handling Mr. Kirby's case should be fired immediately. The new IRS chief should set up a web portal where taxpayers can make reports that actually get reviewed and replied to. This was absolutely ridiculous and should never have happened again. This dragged on for 5 years, and in under 24 hours, we fixed it. Rob, how hard is it to just do your job in the IRS? I'm going to get audited.
Why do we need it? Who was it? Herman Cain that had the 999 plan? I mean, that was great. Fine. Let's get rid of the whole thing. There's no loopholes. There's no nonsense. Give me 9% sales, 9%, what was it, income?
All the Democrats want Norway? That's like 30% if you're making 30 grand.
Dude, I hate the IRS.
Yeah,
I loathe the IRS.
Try getting audited. That sucks.
I believe it. Carl, good to see you. Thanks so much. All right.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.